I generated creators over $1 million the last few years and I lost it all. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I did wrong, what I learned, and I'm going to go through all of the lessons that I learned over the years, so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I did. So, where it all started. I first started in this sort of online space, basically building brands, helping other people with sort of like graphics, video editing and whatnot. And during COVID, I actually launched a private label brand, which we did over like 100K in sales. We scaled it up really quick and eventually just got sort of penny pinched on Amazon. After the Amazon FBA stuff, I first started working with a football YouTuber in the UK known as EmanSV2. He has now amassed over 5 million subscribers, but when I first started working with him, he was around the 1 million subscriber mark. And that's when he had a merchandise store that wasn't really selling too much. So the designs were just his logo slapped on a bunch of generic products, and there was no sort of like thought process behind the actual merch. So obviously when I came in and helped, I was obviously working on commission and essentially running his merch site for him. We turned the print on demand stuff into more custom based stuff with limited drops, and that's when we introduced like the footballs. And obviously I launched footballs for London Movements as well, and also just helped in and around the industry. I would pick up jobs here and there, just essentially helping and connecting the dots and just making things happen or making things possible for these creators. With the physical products, they suck. We had like a lot of returns, quality issues and whatnot. So there was a lot of ups and downs, and I think as I go into like what I learned, I'll explain more of this. After that, I then launched the SV2 camp. So I came to Eman and basically said, look, like this is how you're gonna make a lot more money. There's only so far in product that you can really make, unless you're obviously like Nelt Boys at that sort of scale. There's only so much people are going to want to buy as items. However, an experience is a lifetime opportunity, and having that like personal touch and the connection that you can make with SV2 at one of his camps is what made it all worth it. So generated over $500,000 the camps have, and they will continue on to make that sort of amount of money in the years to come. Obviously we saw huge growth with them. We added loads of new locations, and then we scaled it across the world. Miami, for instance, Dubai, and a lot of locations around the UK. What everyone wants to know is what went wrong. So what went wrong was not watching the numbers closely enough with like the merch. I think like just not really knowing true numbers at all times. Sometimes things come and land and the shipping's a little bit more expensive, or returns are not being tracked properly, so you're not actually looking at what's being lost. You're just looking at the top line revenue and thinking, okay, cool, subtract your product cost, and yeah, you're picking your pack fees and whatnot, and then that's your profit. It's just not the case. Cash flow mistakes, I would say, too much spend versus return. So in that sense, it's spending too much, almost like just expecting that it would never go away, like it would be a constant flow of income, which I thought it was. So I think like one thing that I will premise is you can get lost in the source. Even though I didn't lose it in the source too much, I still could have been a little bit more tighter with money. Having situations where you lose a lot of money just because you're not being tight with your money, and I think that's like the sort of the key lesson there. You can't even trust some of the closest people around you, let's say. So it's a tough one, and I'm still figuring it out. So as I'm making these videos, I'm using this as a way to give myself some accountability as well. So things that I say, things that I want to achieve, the whole purpose of this is to hold myself accountable. So the other thing is being reliant on someone else to promote and bring in traffic, right? With this, it's been one thing that I've struggled getting away from, mainly because I'm the type of person I am. I really like to help people, right? I'm that type of person. I like to help people. I like to connect people with people, and I get a buzz off seeing other things come into like fruition because of like me, something that I connected or something that I set up. I just like that. That's what fulfills me. And I think that I fell into that trap of always relying on someone else for me to even make some funds, right? So when you're relying on someone else, that could be me, like that could be like a creator, let's say for instance, who is promoting a product or promoting an event, and you're getting paid based on the success of that promotion, right? But all of the hard work that you put into that doesn't go unnoticed, but it might get underpaid. However, that's the sort of setup and deal that you've made, right? So obviously you can change the way you work and take on like flat fees rather than a percentage with a creator. However, some creators won't like that sort of setup. And with flat fees, the only reason why I did it is because I kind of knew what it was that I would be making as my percentage, but then at the same time, I took into account all of the hard work and hours that I put into the initial sort of setup. So yes, it was a bit of a higher flat fee. However, I was then able to schedule when payments were coming in, because when it was percentage, I did not know when I was getting paid. I didn't know how much I was getting paid. And there's a line between getting your foot in the door, putting yourself in a position where you are vulnerable as well, i.e. being on a percentage, because at the end of the day, then you're taking on the same sort of risk. You're not getting paid unless the creator is getting paid, which is what you want. However, when you've built that trust and that credibility with that creator, you are then able to then ask for things like that. And obviously with SV2, he allowed that to happen, and obviously that made life in terms of knowing when money was coming in a lot more easier. So death by 1,000 cuts is what I would say is what happened as well. So small issues that compounded. I won't go into too much detail. However, I feel like over the period of the years working, there was little things here and there with slip-ups and whatnot, where I think all those little things then built up to be a bigger thing. So one thing that I would say is make sure that you are focused on the small stuff. Like genuinely take your time and like actually not, I want to say perfect everything, but like not to the point where you're like holding yourself back and stopping yourself from like going faster because you're trying to perfect everything. Like not to that level. However, like perfecting stuff in a way where you're just not gonna have any issues, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Is like you're not gonna have any issues down the line, whether that be some like small issue where it's like a document that's not got signed, or if it's like a piece of information that's not being taken, or it's like the logo on the website shouldn't be like how it is, or do you know what I mean? Those little things build up over time, and it gives people ammo, and that's what you don't want. You don't want to give anyone ammo. You want to be clean as a whistle. And I think that's obviously why I said death by 1,000 cuts. It's like I had the skill, but I didn't have the systems in place. Like I was winging it. Don't get me wrong, like I'm only just turned 25 now. So for me, like I used to be 21, 22 in these situations, like figuring it out. But that's the only way you're gonna learn. Like for me anyway, some people learn differently, but for me, I have to be inside in the mix to figure it out, and to give myself enough XP, and also build momentum. Like I was saying with my friends recently whilst I'm here in Bali, a little bit of different context to what I'm gonna use it as here. However, momentum is everything. Even with me filming this video right now, like I had to throw myself in the deep end, one, just to be like in this setup here with the camera in front of me and the laptop here. Momentum is everything. Once you throw that first rock, everything else after that is easy. I use the example of like cardio in the gym, right? No one really goes to the gym thinking, oh, I can't wait to do cardio today. What I used to do is, obviously one day I just did 40 minutes of cardio. And then every day after that, I only did the 40 minutes of cardio because I did it yesterday. In my head, it was like, oh, I did it yesterday, so I'll just do it today. oh, I did it yesterday, I'm going to do it today because I did it yesterday. Do you know that sort of thing? And that's how you build momentum. Once you've got momentum, anything is possible. And I think that's what I'm going to try and do with these videos as well. So moving on to the next part of this video is plans to make it back. Like, what am I actually going to be doing now to rebuild? So don't get me wrong, I am not like homeless. I'm not like, it's not that bad. However, I did lose a massive chunk of what I had going for the last few years, right? Obviously, don't get me wrong, I still do work behind the scenes. And some of you may know me from the work that I do with the GraphKings boys. So I'm still in the mix, and I'm still well deep inside the creator economy. Just things are going to be a little bit more different now, and I'm also going to be taking more of a focus on my personal brand. So plans to make it back. What I learned from the failure was like sort of like mindset and actual tactics. So even just the sort of mindset that I would go into approaching someone, let's say like approaching a creator or approaching a supplier, all these things have like now shifted the way that I would do things, mainly because you figure out what works and what doesn't, right? You figure out how people respond to certain things, and that's a key thing to all of this is now moving forward, I'm going to be operating at a different level. Like, my next thing is going to be 10 times bigger because I am now in a position where I've had a taste of, not the good life, but I've had a taste of what is possible. I've also had a taste of what I don't want, what I don't like. And what I don't like is not being in an environment that I feel like I can grow. And obviously that's why I've come to Bali for, I'd say, I don't even know, maybe for like the next 4 to 6 months, let's say, just to lock in, build the personal brand, save a little bit on cost, but also just allow my money to go further than what it can do back in the UK. So yeah, like I said, what I'm focusing on right now is I'm going to be focusing on my personal brand, and I'm still obviously doing work elsewhere. However, my main focus is personal brand, and obviously I'm going to be working. But yeah, so my main focus right now will be my personal brand. I am going to be trying to get vlogs as well, showing a bit more of like my daily routine, showing you like what I get up to in Bali. The new model, so it's going to be like lean, cash flow first, scalable later. I'm going to be documenting the whole thing. This is the first time that I'm going to ever do this, and I think this is the next step for me to obviously go to that next level. I've been saying I wanted to do content properly for a while. You might have seen me in GraphKings videos, you might have seen me on other channels as well, but I think anyone who knows me knows that I should have done this a long time ago. Like I said, momentum is everything. Throwing the first rock, I've done that now. This is me throwing that first rock.